Hi, and welcome to The Unusual Suspects. Before you change the channel, because it's not Vinny, just stay and wait. We have a great show for you. My name is Rob Garguilo. You may have seen me in the corner on the computer on the PBD podcast, but I am part of Valuetainment here. I've hosted a few episodes before. We have a great show for you today. The first time that we are doing the second live show of The Unusual Suspects in 1 week. Today, the Friday show. And joining me, we have a fantastic crew of guests. But before we get to that, if you are on Minnect, make sure that you connect with me. You can connect with me for all of your podcasting, search engine optimization, production, and producing needs. Minnect, connect with the right expert for you. It's a fantastic app, and most of the people on today's panel are on Minnect. Let's go around the room, and I'll introduce all of our unusual suspects. Joining and returning today, we have actress, singer, and content coordinator here at Valuetainment, the lovely Christie Prades. Hello, Christie.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Rob. How you doing?
Christie, you're on Minnect as well?
Yes, I am. You can look for me for anything entertainment, media relations, or performance.
Also on Minnect, our writer at VT.com. Now, he uses it as a dating app, but you can connect with him to learn more about writing and literature. Shane Devine. Hello, Shane.
Hello, everybody. I'm actually not on Minnect yet, but we'll be in like 1 week. Give it a sec, yeah.
Okay. We have Humberto, who I can't say his last name, what his country of origin is, and he wants me to call him the supreme leader of content distribution here at Valuetainment Media. Humberto joining us today.
That's right. I'm also on Minnect. I'm trying to pedal to have an abuse category because some people just need to get shouted at a little bit.
That's true.
And finally, our special guest, first time coming on the Unusual Suspects podcast. He's been a guest on the PBD podcast. You've seen him on Fox News, Turning Point USA events. He's been everywhere. He's a decorated war veteran, an author, a political analyst, and he is the host of the Can't Cancel Rob Smith podcast. Everybody, let's welcome Rob Smith to the podcast today. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you. Still can't cancel me.
And you can find Rob. Not only can you find, where can we find your podcast?
You can find my podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeart Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. Also, you can find me on all socials at Rob Smith Online, as I am online.
And Rob has some fantastic topics he's going to bring today. We're going to discuss Elon Musk versus Don Lemon. Christie's going to touch on the House of Representatives and the TikTok ban. Shane, you're going to be commenting on Adin Ross getting Andrew Tate arrested. So all you Tate fans out there, we will have an update on the Andrew Tate detainment. And Humberto, you're going to be covering the spring break ban.
Spring break!
As we are located in South Florida and spring break is underway. But first up, we'll get to a story I saw yesterday, and there's a great article on VT.com right now. It was written by Shane Devine.
I don't know about great, but
it's fantastic. It led me down I went down this rabbit hole last night. We started communicating at like 10 o'clock. I was up until 1:30 in the morning just going, okay, I got to find more information on this. But if you missed the news this week, Aaron Rodgers was announced as one of the leading candidates for the vice presidential nomination or pick for Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s independent campaign for the presidency in 2024. There were two leading names, Aaron Rodgers and Governor Jesse the Body Ventura. We're the two candidates. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Before we get into this story, your thoughts on that, Christie?
All I'm saying is that if we're just doing it based off of looks, I would vote because Aaron Rodgers is
beautiful man.
A beautiful man.
Thank you, calm down.
A beautiful man. I'm just saying. And I love his viewpoints. I like how he calls things out. So that would be my choice.
Shane?
I think it's totally insane that those are the two names. But actually, I can kind of get it because Aaron Rodgers is probably the most vocal COVID skeptic in the mainstream, so it makes sense for RFK. Jesse Ventura, though, I don't really know. Like, that's, I mean, I don't get the idea of picking him, but hey, maybe RFK has some greater thoughts behind it than we're
You don't
aware
get the
of.
idea of Jesse Ventura because you're under 80.
That's
I don't
true.
know.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure whose idea it was to pull Jesse Ventura's name out of I don't know, some hat with cobwebs in it.
Yeah.
As far as the Aaron Rodgers thing goes, look, it is both a great choice and an awful choice at the same time. First of all, it's an awful choice because there's no political experience. He's too well known and not the greatest ways for being like sort of a COVID skeptic. And one of the things that RFK is trying to move past in order to appeal to independents is that COVID skeptic. Like, guys, there are still people to this day that are still masking. Like, there's still people to this day that still buy into all of
that.
that.
So a guy pull into the Tesla supercharger station in a car by himself with the mask
on. So there's people that still buy into that. So if you pull Aaron Rodgers into this, it's going to be like RFK COVID skeptic, Aaron Rodgers COVID skeptic. Now, secondly, if you want to think about Aaron Rodgers' celebrity, like a mainstream celebrity with that kind of draw, that is a great choice. It's going to get more people talking about RFK's campaign. And it's also going to be a huge, huge fundraising opportunity. The Aaron Rodgers name is going to help him raise millions more dollars than Jesse Ventura.
Yeah.
Right.
Can we talk about the Jets?
Go ahead.
I mean, they're not really happy about this. I think they got 10th pick for a new quarterback.
Well, he tore his Achilles the first play of the first game of the season. They spent a lot of money to get him, and now he's, I might not even come back and play. Well, okay, in fairness, let's back.
They're not going to win the Super Bowl anyways.
Yeah, the Jets. But all right, let's start backwards. So the announcement comes out, I believe Tuesday it became official. There were rumors, like I saw it over the weekend on Twitter, Aaron Rodgers and another name possible leading candidates for the VP nomination for RFK Jr.'s campaign. This article comes out on Tuesday, the 12th, from the New York Times. Aaron Rodgers and Jesse Ventura top RFK Jr.'s list for running mate. Now let's go to the next article, because a very interesting 24 hours for Aaron Rodgers. That article comes out on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday the hit pieces begin. This is CNN. Rodgers responds to CNN report that he shared false Sandy Hook conspiracies in private conversations, not public. Private conversations. Kelly, could you play the first clip? This is, I believe, Jake Tapper with CNN reporting on the allegations against Aaron Rodgers and his thoughts privately on the Sandy Hook shooting.
Yesterday here on The Lead, we reported that Aaron Rodgers had shared these frankly disturbing views about the Sandy Hook shooting not being real. He shared them 11 years ago with CNN's Pamela Brown. She was covering the Kentucky Derby for CNN in 2013 and met him there. CNN, I have also spoken to another person, one who would like to remain anonymous in order to avoid harassment, who also had a similar encounter with Aaron Rodgers, saying that Rodgers claimed that, quote, Sandy Hook never happened, all those children never existed, they're all actors, unquote. When asked about the grieving parents, whom I met, and their grief is real, the source says that Rodgers said, quote, they're all making it up, they're all actors, unquote. Now, today, Aaron Rodgers is responding to our story, kind of. He does not deny saying what we reported he said, but he, or a representative for him, tweeted the following statement, quote, as I'm on the record saying in the past, what happened in Sandy Hook was an absolute tragedy. I am not and have never been of the opinion that the events did not take place. Again, I hope that we learn from this and other tragedies to identify the signs that would allow us to prevent unnecessary loss of life. My thoughts and prayers continue to remain with the families affected, along with the entire Sandy Hook community, unquote. Again, you know, if you read that statement, Rodgers does not deny those comments that he made to Pamela Brown and to the other source.
I don't know, reading that tweet and listening to him read the tweet, again, as I am on the record saying in the past, what happened in Sandy Hook was an absolute tragedy. I am not and have never been of the opinion that those events did not take place. That sounds like a denial to me, right?
Clearly.
Right.
Rob, what do you think?
Well, look, so I'm not one of those. It's like some people will see CNN and they're like, oh, CNN, fake news, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I always think about things from an independent perspective. What is an independent voter going to think? And what that is giving me is that somebody was listening to a little bit too much Infowars 11 years ago, and he was sort of wrapped up in all of this conspiracy theory nonsense. And that is the problem. We were talking about cults before we started this show. That is the problem when you get too wrapped up in these cults that are happening online. Like, obviously, it's abhorrent, right? Obviously, he's backtracking now, but to the independent voter that is looking at this dude is a Sandy Hook denier. This dude is completely crazy. Why would I ever want to get him anywhere near the White House?
First time in history that I'm going to side with CNN. It's all Aaron Rodgers' fault because he use caps. Once you write
Okay.
When you write a tweet like that, and when you deny stuff, you need to cap it.
Yeah, a few exclamation marks will help. I get what you're saying, yes.
You need to cap. I did not caps.
But
That's what it
hasn't
is.
Trump done that multiple times and they still don't believe him?
That's true. When he does it, then they're like,
It
he's
doesn't
deranged and unhinged, then he has Alzheimer's.
To be fair, some of those all caps tweets are very deranged and very unhinged.
They are fun to read, though.
They're super fun. Let's not pretend that those Trump tweets or Truth Socials or whatever aren't completely insane. You're just like, why is this guy up at 3:58 a.m. tweeting at Rihanna? Go to sleep. You're crazy. Go to sleep.
Shane, your thoughts on a CNN reporter not reporting this for 12 years and then the other source being an unidentified source, which they will quote, but they refuse to name to protect their anonymity?
Yeah, okay. So, to be fair to CNN, which I didn't think I'd ever say, what Jake Tapper is saying is that Aaron Rodgers denied that he ever said it didn't happen, which actually contradicts one of CNN's claims, one of them, the anonymous source. The anonymous source claimed that Rodgers said it never happened, the children were child actors, the parents were actors. That's the thing that Alex Jones got sued for $1 billion for. For the record, we are not claiming that either. We don't want to be sued for $1 billion.
Right.
However,
you better get PBD to write out the checkbook.
However,
get $1 billion
Let's
from
be
me.
clear. Adam Lanza did kill 26 people on December 14th of 2012. Right. 20 of those victims, unfortunately, 6 to 7 years old, 6 staff members. Adam Lanza also fatally shot his mother, then killed himself by suicide at Sandy Hook Elementary School as first responders were closing in. But go ahead.
Okay, but the second level of the claim is that Pamela Brown, the other author of the report with Jake Tapper, said that Rodgers personally told her that he believes there was another suspect in the case. He said that the news media covered up the fact that there was a second man who was found in the woods dressed in black. So I had never heard that before. So just writing this article, I'm like, interesting. Let me Google this to, find a source. Right. There were articles from the time where from Business Insider, from AP, and from local Fox and ABC outlets, all saying that a second person had been found in the woods wearing black and camouflage. The police apprehended him, and when he was being brought away from people, he was heard yelling, "I did not do it, I did not do it," to the parents. Helicopter footage also caught on camera him running through the woods and the police apprehending him. Now, do we want to play the clip?
Yes, I believe we do have that clip. Kelly, would we be able to jump a few slides? It's the overhead shot. I'll tell you where we're at. There it is. There's the overhead shot. If you could pull this up. This is from the Associated Press. In fact, this isn't like, hey, this is up on, some weird conspiracy theory Rumble channel. This is still posted to this day on the Associated Press's YouTube channel. This is a suspect dressed in camouflage pants and a black shirt running into the woods and being chased by authorities. And this is the day of the shooting. So this is live TV feed from the Associated Press. Again, we'll put the link in the description of this episode so you can go and verify for yourself. But this is up still to this day on the Associated Press's YouTube page. Now, could you go to the next video, Kelly? Because there are parents who were witnesses of the suspect's arrest, the guy that fled into the woods.
A guy out of the woods. I saw him walk a guy out earlier with handcuffs. He walked by us and said he didn't do it.
It was a grown man.
A grown man, yeah. He's sitting in the front of the police car over there now. So, I mean...
He didn't have a gun?
No, I didn't see any gun. Just had him handcuffed, and he walked by us and looked into parents' eyes and said, I didn't do it.
How was he dressed?
Camo pants with a dark jacket.
So camo pants, dark jacket, seen running into the woods. In fact, local news media outlets in Connecticut also covered this story. Here is a news footage from the day of the shooting where they report that there were multiple shooters on site.
Line from Bridgeport, Connecticut, we have Mike Bellamy, news director for WICC 600. Mike, 2 shooters, is this the latest?
Yeah, the latest information is that 2 shooters, we have unconfirmed reports that one of the shooters is dead, and there is another individual who's being pulled out of a wooded area in handcuffs and being questioned by police. As you guys have been reporting, it happened in the 9 o'clock hour local time this morning, but the latest information is unconfirmed reports, 2 shooters, one of the shooters dead, and another shooter, possible shooter, in handcuffs being pulled out of a local wooded area.
Okay, what do we know about injuries here, Mike?
The latest report...
So there's the news media reporting on it. You see the helicopter footage of a guy running into the woods. You see parents saying that there was a guy that was pulled out of the woods. Then you have Business Insider reporting on it. The headline for the Business Insider story, footage of police arresting second man in woods right after the Sandy Hook shooting. This was published December 17th, 2012, 10:24 a.m. Eastern time. There's the article right there that you can see. So there seems to be that there was a second person involved in this shooting if you're looking at all of this evidence. However, the weird part is Business Insider goes and does another article. I'm sorry, maybe this is Yahoo Finance. You're right. Sorry. Thank you, Kelly. November 25th of 2013. Sandy Hook shooting reports reveal why cops feared there were more shooters. In this article, Yahoo Finance goes on to talk about 3 people who were captured and detained following the Sandy Hook shooting on, December 14th of 2012. First person, 2 reporters who were located in the woods near Sandy Hook and held at gunpoint by the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection until their identities could be confirmed. The second person, a man from New York who was working in a town nearby who got a news alert about the situation at Sandy Hook and went to the school to see what was going on. He was taken from the school in handcuffs. And the third, another unknown male who was detained and turned out to be a parent with a mobile phone in his hand. None of those mention a guy dressed in camouflage pants with a dark top shirt running into the woods and being arrested and detained. So there's all of these reports about a second person being there up until like days after the shooting and then never again.
So, and then the police did say they arrested a second person, but then I think Lieutenant Colonel of the police later came out and said that there was no second shooter. That's all he said, and there was never a follow-up. So Rodgers in that tweet never says, what he says is, I never said it didn't happen, and I've always said it was an absolute tragedy. But if you notice, he's playing around with the words, because what he's not saying is that he never did not suggest there was a second person. And so what I think is interesting, though, is how CNN immediately digs this up. No one, this Pamela Brown, who works at CNN, she never talked about this before. She never talked about Rodgers coming up to her at the Kentucky Derby and saying all this to her.
No, do you think that would come out?
But she brings it up because it's relevant.
Because it's relevant?
If she brings it up because it's relevant, and she brings it up because a lot of people are going to think it's weird, and a lot of people are going to think that talking about a conspiracy as to whether or not there was a second shooter at Sandy Hook over a decade ago is also weird. Right. Like, people think these things are weird. It's fringe. It doesn't, like, it's just weird, okay? And so it becomes very relevant when somebody is being tipped to be the number 2 leader of the free world by somebody that is running for president. Like, that's why it's relevant.
And it doesn't help that he was in a tent doing ayahuasca when the news broke of all of this.
Yeah.
That was the report.
Wait, was he really there?
Aaron Rodgers isn't even on a phone.
I know that people are anti-establishment and anti-CNN and the fake news media and all that other stuff. I get it. Like, for me, there's no reason for me really to question journalistic sources, right? So I got my graduate degree in journalism from Columbia University. So I believe that there are people in that industry that really do have a lot of integrity when it comes to their reporting. The fake news happens when they try to manipulate things, when they cut off different quotes, Trump, Charlottesville, like a million different ideas of that, right? So I don't think it does us any favors to be like, oh, well, why would Pamela Brown come up with this now? Like, she's lying, everybody's lying. Like, I don't think it does people any favors. And I also think that, again, somebody that's being tipped as the vice president, it freaks people out that this person was watching Infowars
but it's
and
not
talking
Infowars,
about
it's
conspiracy theories about Sandy Hook.
Yeah, well, so, okay, you're right. Pamela Brown has a reason for coming out about it now.
Yeah.
But what is actually to be contested about her claim or about what she's saying about Rodgers? Because what she's saying is Rodgers said that he thinks there was a second person.
Yeah.
And from the footage, there was a second person. He's not even wrong about that.
Well, here's the thing. From the footage, like, you guys are proving that it's not wrong. For me, it's like his job to clean up that mess. You know, and I understand that people want to ask questions about things. I understand that things are there and you want to uncover all of this stuff. the big view to me is that the average person, like, I feel like when you do this for a living and when you work in this, and if you're in politics and media or whatever, we kind of miss a view of what the average person really thinks is important. And the average person is not trying to relitigate this 11 years later. The average person is trying to pay for groceries. The average person is trying to pay for gas. Like, the average person is not trying to relitigate this. So the choice to even put Aaron Rodgers on the VP shortlist seems unserious.
So
for a lot of different reasons.
It made me look. To be honest, I watched RFK's. We had an event with him, and I was very much. I felt like you were talking about with a lot of people that feel abandoned by both parties.
Yeah.
You're kind of just in the middle, and I don't agree with everything Trump says. I definitely don't agree with Biden's policies. So it's like both of these I don't like. I found a middle ground with RFK, and I liked RFK. I watched the State of the Union address that he put out last week. Fantastic. 9 minutes, great. Problem is, it just highlights the problems, and I wasn't seeing any answers or solutions. And that started to get to me. I'm like, okay, well, I really want to believe in you, but you're highlighting all the problems. What are the solutions? Yeah. And then this breaks, and it's like, as someone who likes Aaron Rodgers, I appreciate what he does on the football field. 4-time NFL MVP, one of 5 players in league history to win win that award back to back, won a Super Bowl, has switched teams. If you remember his career, sat on the bench behind Brett Favre. Brett Favre was being a dick to him. The guy overcame a lot, became one of the best quarterbacks in history. But I don't want him on the vice presidential candidate ticket. I don't want Jesse Ventura, and I like Jesse Ventura. I liked his show Conspiracy Theory. I enjoyed why. Not the guy that if you want to be taken seriously as a candidate to be president, you can't put those guys on. It drags down your credibility.
The reason that people gravitate towards RFK in general is because people are telling you, like, all the polling is suggesting that people do not want Trump versus Biden, right? Yep. They do not want Trump versus Biden. I tell the MAGA people this on Twitter all the time. You know, Trump got the nomination, great, against Nikki Haley. There were still 30 to 40% of people that were not choosing him, right? So people want a different choice. I think that they want better choices than RFK, and they want better choices than Aaron Rodgers as VP. And I understand that people want people that are outside of the typical political system, because all these people do is launder money in DC. It's all they do is launder money. But give us somebody at least maybe not 77 years old. Yeah. But the reason that Trump came in is because this person had decades of experience running a business. Like, give us serious people that have had experience running businesses, doing something. I don't care that Aaron Rodgers is great at football. I don't care that he has 50 million Twitter followers. Give me somebody that has done something.
Yeah.
And even with RFK, like, I just don't get it. I believe that this country needs an independent candidate. It needs a serious independent candidate. That is the only way we're going to break up this two-party system, which is helping absolutely nobody. But it's not RFK, and it's not Aaron Rodgers.
I agree that...
Final comment, Shane.
Final comment. I agree that the average person does not care about fringe conspiracy theories from 2009, whatever. That's precisely why Pamela Brown's bringing this up now, to try to get them off course. However,
not to try to get them off course. She brought it up because it came up in context of reporting she did 11 years ago that is now relevant. Okay. She didn't bring this up in terms of some conspiracy to blah, blah, blah. Aaron, I had this conversation with Aaron Rodgers 12, 13 years ago in context of reporting. That is why it is now relevant.
Okay, I disagree. But anyways, I think that the main reason, though, that people like RFK is, yes, they want to get away from Trump and Biden, but mostly it's because they don't trust the establishment anymore.
Absolutely.
Distrust in the establishment is very popular.
Yeah.
Specific conspiracy theories might not be, but distrust is very popular.
Well, that's what helped get Trump elected in 2016, was that distrust in the establishment.
Yes. So that's all I would say, is that even if it's not, it's not this particular topic that's important, the importance is that Rodgers is willing to question things, and RFK thinks that will resonate well with the people who vote for him.
If you would like to read more about this topic, you can go to VT.com. We'll also put a link in the description to this episode, but you can read more on Shane's article. What's the title of the article?
CNN writes hit piece on Aaron Rodgers after RFK VP rumors.
Cool. Make sure you go and check that out. Next topic, Rob Smith, host of the Can't Cancel Rob Smith podcast. You can find him on all socials at Rob Smith online. Rob, you have the Elon Musk Don Lemon interview.
Yeah, so Elon Musk and Don Lemon are now engaged in a catfight after Elon Musk pulls X's support of Don Lemon's new digital show podcast, The Don Lemon Show, after what was a fairly contentious interview that was supposed to launch off the first episode. You guys can play that clip between Don Lemon and Elon Musk. Go ahead and get right to that.
And this did not air on X yet, or is this just the teaser that he's putting out?
This is the teaser that he's promoting. Apparently, this show launches on X on Monday, which, by the way, coincidentally, is when Can't Cancel Rob Smith goes video, and you can find that on youtube.com/Can't Cancel Rob Smith. Hey. But yeah, play the clip. This is Don Lemon.
The trademark laugh there, which, by the way, in the context of the contract is canceled 24 hours after that interview, it just shows there was a lot of back and forth and give and take. What did you take away from his comments on politics?
Well, he says he's not going to endorse anyone now, but he may do it later. He says he's not going to give money to anyone now, but he may do it later. You never know with him. He may be endorsing someone now on the platform. But, what's interesting to me in all of that and all these questions that, about what people are asking me, what I asked Elon, what happened, what did I do? Yep. During the course of that interview, I never raised my voice. I told him, I think this is important for people to hear, especially considering how the type of discourse that we're having in the country right now. And he supposedly says this is a public square for all. Maybe we're learning that a public square should not be privately owned by someone who doesn't think that there should be any moderation on that platform. So it was interesting because at the end, I could tell that he was upset and he was uncomfortable. It was tense. And I said, listen, I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, I would go and have a beer and hash these things out. You and I do not disagree. You and I do not agree on much. Yeah. But I will fight for your right to be able to say what you want to say. That's what freedom of speech means to me.
And 24 hours later, then.
And 24 hours later. It means freedom of speech does not mean, I guess, the same thing to him as it does to me.
Contract is canceled. Don, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone being able to hear part of these clips. And Don's full interview with Elon Musk comes out on Monday.
That's weird that he was on CNN after he got fired from CNN. Listen, I've been fired on the radio twice. Neither one would allow me to come back on and promote my podcast. Yeah. I was like, hey, I'm host of Unusual Suspects, Cox Radio, Mike Calta. Can I come on and they'd go get the fuck off of our phone line. Why are you calling us? That's very odd that he was there to promote that.
If you were fighting with Elon Musk, I bet they will get you back immediately.
Okay, well, number one, so he's on CNN to promote this show. He got cashed out by CNN to the tune of something like $20 or $30 million.
$25 million.
$25 million. Yeah. They had to buy out his contract. Unfortunately, so I call him Diva Don Lemon. I don't particularly love Don Lemon. I feel like he would be more interesting if he was just his authentic self. He was more interesting before he sort of became this tool of the left to be super duper anti-Trump. And he's got, Zucker in his earpiece, basically, pulling him on puppet strings. But there's a lot of things that happen in this CNN interview, which I thought was interesting. First of all, he is trying to say that Elon Musk basically pulling the deal to put promotional heft behind his show on X is some sort of cancellation of free speech. That's not cancellation of free speech. What Elon Musk is saying is that I'm not going to put weight behind this content on X anymore. You're still free to publish it on X like everybody else. Like I'm free to publish Can't Cancel Rob Smith on X at Rob Smith Online. He is free to publish a Don Lemon show, first of all. And second of all, he's trying to say that, well, maybe a company that is involved in free speech shouldn't be privately owned. That's a dog whistle, because I think that what they're going to try to do is to institute this sort of government takeover of X. What I will say is that I personally, people are saying that there's been an increase in hate speech and all this other stuff on X. I've seen the discourse definitely become messier on X in terms of smears and slurs and all that stuff. I've seen it. I get targeted by a lot of these jokers on X, right? So I've seen this stuff. But to say that Elon doesn't believe in free speech because he's not going to put promotional dollars behind my show is very, very disingenuous. And thirdly, the last point that I'm going to make is that a lot of these legacy media players, like Chris Cuomo is apparently doing stuff with Valuetainment now, And a lot of these legacy media players are coming to the digital space and they think that they're just going to recreate CNN online. It doesn't work. I don't think Don Lemon is smart enough to pull it off. And the only person who's truly come to this space and made it work, like Bill O'Reilly's doing some stuff like Who Cares? It's not 1998. It's not. Like,
no,
whatever.
It's true, too. If you've seen the website.
Oh, Bill O'Reilly is going to come after
I watch
me.
him.
Yeah.
The only one.
Yeah.
But my dad does
what I'm
too.
saying is the only person from this legacy media space to come in, you have Tiffany Cross, who got fired from MSNBC, and now she's trying to have a podcast. Like, they all kind of do the same things. The reason that a lot of these people are not going to work in the digital space is because it's not cable news on YouTube and it's not cable news on X. It's a completely different thing. The only person that is truly making this work is Megyn Kelly, whose show is fire because she just leans into, I am a journalist. I am going to stick to the facts. That's the only way it's going to work.
Well,
I don't think Lemon's going to work in this space.
But a lot of those people also, don't they have... You've done more mainstream news media than any of us combined.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that, when you're doing the interviews, maybe it's not so much scripted, but when you're reading the news, it's written for you. It's on a teleprompter. It's in front of you.
Yes.
But then you watch Megyn Kelly. She does and I don't know how long the radio show is, but I know it's daily on Sirius Satellite Radio. They're not writing out a script for her. Brian Kilmeade did the same thing. You know, that was what Rush Limbaugh was really great at. He was the biggest radio. If you look at his home, it was the biggest home ever purchased in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
There's a reason why. The guy had the gift for gab. There takes a little bit of that. Yes, you can be a good-looking face, but you also have to have that gift of gab and that personality.
You have to have it. Let me tell you, I don't know if anybody has ever sat here and done 3 hours of live radio. Buck Sexton's a really good buddy of mine. And when Buck was on the radio in his previous show, I guest hosted for him a couple of times. And I did it like 3 days back to back. And you are on the radio for 3 hours straight. Like, you will get sots to go in and out of produce. Like, that's great. But I told him it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Right? Because it is hard work. And what people don't understand about the cable news space, because I go back and forth between digital and cable news. When you're in a cable news space, what you are talking about and what stories you recover coming from way high, from the executive level. And by the way, that executive level is going to get their cues from whatever it is that, like, whatever they're trying to push. If it's conservative, if it's liberal, or whatever, that's where they're taking their cues from. So when you sit on a cable news set, 70% of the work is actually already done for you. And why I don't believe that Don will really work in this space is that I don't think this whole idea of I'm going to sit and have a 2-hour conversation with Elon Musk or whoever, I don't think it plays like people think. And honestly, we've heard a lot from Elon. Like, what you think about Elon is what you think about him at this point, and nothing's ever going to change that. So we'll see.
My question is, if he got so much money and he got bought out by CNN, why isn't he like on an island somewhere enjoying? You know, he just wants to be so relevant. Like,
I know this is going to sound ridiculous.
I would be on an island,
not
away
with $25 million
enjoying.
anymore. You got to think you get a $25 million payday, but the lawyers are going to take a third of that. You have agents and managers.
I don't think.
Look,
you're going to tell me stop it.
End of day,
stop it.
That money was $10 million. You think that's enough to go away for the rest of your life?
Do you think that's not enough? If you don't think $10 million is enough to disappear forever, I wonder how you deal with your finances.
Maybe it's the way that I think. I'd be living in like a baller mansion. That's what but you can't do that on $10 million. You have real estate taxes.
Okay, stop.
Cable bills.
Stop right now. We are not going to. No, stop the recording. We are not going to live in a space. I am not going to let this slide, Rob. You are not going to tell me.
I don't have $10 million. That's how I go. I would think you need more.
You can. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll make it a little personal and not look. I stepped away from this for like a year and a half. I wasn't doing much because I was like, do I really want to do this? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like I investment, like I was doing just fine. Sure. And it's not $10 million.
Right.
The average person that is not trying to, I don't know if you're trying to trick off on strippers. Like, I don't know if you, I don't know if you're trying to get like, I don't know what kind of life you're trying to live.
Probably would though if I had
But
$10
the
million.
average person, and by the way, not even the $25 million. Think about the fact that he had a 2-decade long career. Like he's a millionaire before.
Way more more
fair.
than that.
The average person, if PBD walked here right now and was like, hey, Rob, here's $5 million, like, I'd be good. These socials are being deleted.
Yeah, you
I'm
step
done.
away.
You can live. But he's doing this, not to, I'm
Ego.
I'm busting your balls.
No,
here
but
for a
so
little
it's
bit.
ego and relevance.
It's ego and relevance because, look, men got to work, right? And the reason that I came back to start running my mouth and doing all this stuff again is because I was like, well, you can sit here and I can travel and I can go to Europe for a month and I can do all this stuff, but like you get bored because men need to work. And I understand that Don is doing this because he needs to work.
Can I dip my toes in the whole? I think Don Lemon is unnecessary. Yeah. I mean,
unnecessary.
It's unnecessary.
I think so.
Okay.
Like he won't have. For example, that interview was unnecessary. Like we all know what he thinks.
Yeah.
Like he leaves the second interview, the promotional interview, saying like we disagree on a bunch of things. We already knew that, dude. Megyn Kelly, on the other hand, when she left Cable News, she became better.
Yeah.
Because she was able to do things
because she was unleashed.
She was unleashed.
And by the way, Megyn Kelly and Don used to be friends, and now they hate each other. And I'm always like, I just always think it's so petty when Megyn does these segments on Don. And I had done a segment when he was getting sued for groping the bartender or whatever, and I guess they made that go away. But I did Megyn Kelly show, and I was like, this is so shady and funny that these people used to be friends and they're not anymore, and they just like shit all over each other.
It's like a novela.
Media. I love media like catfights.
I don't know, like. Personally, I want to see Don Lemon fail slowly. Like I hate that this happened because I want to see like Elon supporting him, and then his show slowly falling apart into relevancy. And I
That's
could
the entertainment,
enjoy
though.
like 2 years of him failing.
Yeah, but he'll hide that. You're not
like, can I ask a
Huh?
serious question? I want to ask a serious question. Like, does anybody here have a true understanding of the media business and how this works?
Rob.
Like, I really want to ask you.
Rob, I'm sorry, but you're playing an interesting position here where you're both saying that you have this insider knowledge, you know so much, but you also know so much about the average person. So please let us know about
because I was average before, and then I started working in the media industry. So it's like, I'm saying, like, literally, no, I'm going to tell you, and that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived on $135 a week, bro. Like, I've been there, right? So I know what that life is. And everything that's happened over the past 5 to 7 years have been completely different. So I know these players, I know the business, but I also know what it's like to like be broke. And I know what it's like to live on $135 in New York City. So I do. And I get it. Like, chat, like I'm here for it, and I get what you're saying. So like I know both sides. And the only reason that I'm challenging you on the Don Lemon failure, like when you're that famous, you're famous forever, right? When you have a certain following that will go with you wherever you go, you'll always be able to monetize them. So if they go to if they go to his podcast and he's got sponsors and he got this stuff off the gate, so whether he will remain relevant in that sort of mainstream media space, who knows? But he'll always be the guy that was on CNN for a decade and has like all.
Does he have that following though? Did he have like? I guess we're going to find that answer out coming.
That remains to be seen.
Because he's been gone. He's been off TV for a year, right? And I haven't heard anything about him until this.
Yeah.
So, and there would be, I guess you're waiting for that contract to end and then the terms of your contract to be over or whatever. There's probably non-compete.
Well, because they had to do everything legally and he had to figure out what it is. And he probably had non-competes where the rumor has it that he was trying to go to do the daytime thing, to do CBS This Morning and all this other stuff. And that he was a little too politically polarizing to like make that work. Okay. So I am both an insider and a normal person.
Okay.
It's fair.
And that's difficult to find.
Now let me ask, I would like your opinion on this though. So you mentioned a person that moved from the news space to the digital space, Megyn Kelly being the most successful.
Yeah.
What about your thought? What are your thoughts on Tucker?
My thoughts on Tucker are from somebody that so this is what I think honestly about Tucker. Like those were always like, I feel like Tucker on Fox existed kind of like in this bubble that was outside of that Fox infrastructure, right? Outside of that cable news infrastructure. So I feel like he did what he wanted to do. I don't think that he was running things through executives before he did it. So I think that it's been a little rocky, Tucker's transition to digital. Like, I don't want to say that he's less relevant than he was before, because he'll always be relevant, because he'll be relevant because he's doing journalism. But I have seen like some stuff goes places, some stuff doesn't. So he's just like figuring it out. And I think that when Tucker became Tucker, truly, honestly, was during 2020 because he was doing reporting and he was doing things that nobody else was doing. And I think that there's not the space in this moment for him to be relevant in that way, because now there are a lot of people that are doing a lot of more in-depth reporting about a lot of different things. Like, Tucker's always going to be Tucker. I think as a journalist, he's great. I don't like every single thing that he does. Like, having that like, he's starting to have like these Twitter trolls on there, like, whatever. He's still trying to figure it out. But when he cracks the code and really gets it, it's going to be phenomenal.
Okay. Shane?
I would agree with that. I think Tucker really had a very unique space occupied during Fox because he was a Fox News anchor, most watched on the most watched cable news network, talking about narratives from the internet that no one else was talking about on cable. Right. Now he's on the internet talking about internet narratives. So it's not really anymore that same unique, holy grail that he rode to the top with. But I think what I saw was interesting with his Cuomo interview recently was him going into architecture and saying that postmodern architecture is like a spiritual poison. And Cuomo was like, what are you talking about, dude? He's like, you really think that like architecture like operates on that level? And Tucker's like, oh, absolutely. And that was a Tucker that I would like to see more of.
Yeah, the clip's actually really good because he explains how the modern architecture takes away the creative aspect of designing buildings, and that comes from the human aspect. Yeah. A person builds that, they design it, they build it with their hands. It's an extension of humanity. Whereas these cut and dry, this looks like this, put this up. But yeah, so yeah, it was a really interesting
conversation clip. That is represented visually on Twitter, like very beautifully a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Tucker, while he's been in this kind of, fired state for the last couple of years, he's been doing a lot of reading because there was also a speech that he gave in Hungary where he talked about this book that he was currently reading about the Bolsheviks when they were overthrowing Russia. And he said that everyone was acting like nothing was going on. Like there would be like a play going on in a playhouse. And then just outside, there's just revolutionaries going everywhere and like holding people up at gunpoint and robbing them. And I'm like, Tucker, like, what books are you reading, dude? Like, what I want from Tucker is a show that's just him and the camera for an hour just talking about his thoughts. Because I think he's at that point now where he's kind of like a philosopher at this point.
He's like an elder statesman. Like, he doesn't have to break any more news. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have to be relevant, quote unquote.
I don't know. I'm a big fan. His hair is a business.
It is pretty nice.
Are you talking about Bill O'Reilly or are we talking about Tucker Carlson? Okay.
I don't know. And he has some segments. He will bring this Chinese lady that is in a school board and he will tell her really good stories. She's not like a big name, but he's making a point. And then he will go interview Putin, and everything in between. I think he's coming on his own.
Keep the interviews, but I feel like he could, have a show like that in addition to the crazy interviews.
Now, during this conversation, Rob, you mentioned about the regulation of social media when it comes to Elon Musk and Don Lemon statements. I think that's a great segue into what Christie wants to talk about. Congress, the House of Representatives, voted on the TikTok ban this week. It passed, and now I believe it goes to the Senate. But Christie, tell us more.
Yeah, so the House of Representatives passed the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. The long it gets longer and longer. So it would potentially ban TikTok nationwide. It got huge. It started trending all over X and TikTok itself with a lot of content creators putting their opinions to it. So as VT previously reported, I think this was your story, Shane. You're killing it. This piece of legislation would give ByteDance, which is the Chinese-based owned company that owns TikTok, 6 months to divest its ownership of the platform to a U.S. company or risk having the app banned in the United States. Now, there are roughly 170 million users in the United States for TikTok, which is probably more than half of their users because it's banned in 5 other countries, including China, India, and Afghanistan. Actually, a fun fact, in 2020, I think India banned it that year, but before they banned it, it had 200 million users in India. So it was massive over there. So now the Chinese-based app does display national security concerns because obviously ByteDance collects a bunch of our data from users, including IP addresses, location, searches on and off the app, and also monitors facial recognition so that the algorithm can read what we're interested in and continue delivering more of what we want to see. However, so does Meta. So let's not pretend that they're not doing it here. All social media apps that are American based also do it. Meta trackers are all over the internet, constantly collecting data from us. Threads, for example, which is equivalent to Twitter for Facebook. The app can collect personal data, including browsing history, purchase history, physical addresses. It could even get your info on religion, sexual orientation, pregnancy status, all of these things it can collect. So actually, there's an article, Kelly, that we'll pull up that Meta plummeted the most that it's been since it plummeted 4.5% on Tuesday, marking the social media oligarch's lowest closing since last month. Coincidentally, Trump had posted his thoughts on Meta, calling it the enemy of the people. So I found it interesting on that timing. And I wanted to show that an initial bill, which was proposed back in 2020 under the Trump administration, it was actually rescinded from President Biden. It was revoked in 2021. However, now he replaced it and he's like for it. So if it does get to his desk, he has said that he will be all for it and sign it into law. So I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Are you guys TikTok users? What do you think? I mean, obviously the House passes a lot of bills, not saying that it's going to go through the Senate, but it is interesting to see how not only President Biden flip-flopping on his thoughts of the potential ban, but like, what do you guys think as social media users on the government interfering?
Well, so did Trump. Trump flip-flopped as well,
right?
Because Trump brought it up and then Trump took it away, his support. And it's very interesting. Steve Bannon had tweeted out or put on one of the Parler or Truth or one of those that Trump had been bought by Jeff Yass. And then it came out yesterday from the New York Post, Trump considering billionaire TikTok investor Jeff Yass. According to the reports, Jeff Yass is one of the biggest donators or one of the biggest people stakeholders in not ByteDance but TikTok. And he also is a very influential donor to the Republican Party, and he allegedly had threatened to revoke his donations if Republicans voted in support of this bill. And that's why Trump flip-flopped. Steve Bannon calls it out, and then the article comes out today from the New York Post.
You know, this bill is giving Patriot Act vibes,
right?
You know, like whenever these people agree, I'm like, there's something funny here.
When Democrats and Republicans come together in Congress, it's never good.
I know.
But
Like,
that's so true.
They're coming together because they figured out another way to either control us, spy on us, or launder money through our tax dollars.
Benjamin Franklin said, those who will give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor the safety.
Right.
People are not going to the underlying factor of this, okay? Take care of your freaking kids. I mean, grab their phone, delete TikTok, and teach them something. Take them for a walk or do something with them.
But the thing about it is that, so I remember having an argument, not an argument, but I think it was on Fox, and I was talking with Himmer, and so the Republican line back then, that's like maybe 5 months ago, the Republican line was like, ban TikTok, and I was like, well, number one, that is where the Zoomers and the Gen Alpha, that is where they are. So if you're telling conservatives or right-leaning people or Republicans to not be there, you're shooting yourself in the foot, right? Do I think that this bill is the right answer? You know, Thomas Massey, did a very impassioned floor speech that was very against this bill, and he had one simple question: if this bill is so simple, why does it have to be 13 pages?
Right.
Why is this bill 13 pages? And so what I think it's about is the government saying, we realize that China is using this to influence, to spy, to do all this other stuff, but we want to be the ones that are doing the influencing, and we are the ones that want to be doing the spying, which, by the way, look, I don't get too much into the data thing. Like, whether it's Meta, whether it's TikTok, whether it's whatever, everybody's crawling our phone for all of this stuff. And like, I'm never running for president. So, they know everything about you.
Right.
Because these apps are free because what they're costing is your time and your focus and your data.
If the app is free, you're the product. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
I used to work for advertising sales, special digital ones, and we knew everything. That's why I don't even give my number at the 7-Eleven reward program, because they do some really, really creepy shit that they cross databases, they sell it off here, they sell it off there. There's no way around it. It's a world that we live in. And anyone that thinks they're not gonna keep crawling around your data and knowing who you are, because the technology's there, you can't take it away.
Yeah, I ask what you guys think because the language in this bill indicates that Biden, the FBI, and other intelligence agencies, it says in further detail that whatever they find to be a national security threat, whatever app, not just TikTok, it's in general, they can interfere and ban it from the United States if they were to find it a threat.
And you know what? I'm gonna go even further
right
here. Like this, like having an old crappy house and putting paint on it. Like the underlying problem is China. It's the Chinese Communist Party that runs everything. Like we don't need to end TikTok. We need to end the Communist Chinese Party. That's what it is. Those guys have too much influence. They're buying up Africa.
So then you agree that ByteDance, like with that part of the agreement, that ByteDance should sell to a U.S. company?
I think so. I mean, like TikTok, there's a great article on Substack. TikTok is a Chinese super weapon. Like that's what it is. That's what it is.
Okay, so
and I agree with that because they very much influence the youth culture of this country via TikTok. Now, when you look at how TikTok is used in this country compared to other countries, number one, I believe in China, it's not called TikTok there, it's called something else. But they limit the amount of time that you can spend on that app if you're under a certain age. Their algorithm feeds them information about nature, science, math, whatever. Our TikTok algorithm feeds the kids in this country these
Culture.
what is it, the challenges that are hurting people,
dance, a lot of
like
distraction
all of this
if
other
you think
stuff.
about it.
But you made a point earlier that I wanted to get back to, and you said that parents need to take these phones out of their hands, right? And I think you're absolutely right. Like one of the main problems that we have in this country is just parents not raising their children. They're worried about social media apps or the internet or Sexy Red or like everything is raising kids in this country but the parents.
Yeah.
So I think that the thinkers that I follow, and what's very interesting about this when we talk about this entire social media conversation in general, is that the most powerful people in this country that have made their millions, if not billions, from these apps do not allow their children to be on social media. Their children are sent to private schools in which they are completely tech free. So why is it that the children, the wealthy children of the people that invented all of these things are sent to tech-free education where we have the children of this country that are going to public school, whatever, are on their phones 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day? It's scary.
I absolutely agree. I've been fighting this thing right here. I've been fighting the phone.
Oh, absolutely.
Since we had dumb phones. Like
we're all addicted to it.
My dad is German. And we had like German discipline in the house. So I avoided having a phone until I was like 15 because I knew that was a tool of control from my parents. You know, I didn't want anything to do with a phone. All my friends were doing
because the second you had one, they could get in contact with you at any time.
At any time.
Yeah.
So I will leave the phone at home because I want to do my thing. I was a skater rat kid that would go around. I didn't want them to know where I am or where I was.
But there's great solutions to that now, which is something that I've instituted. So I have two kids. I have a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. And for the longest time, the 15-year-old just got his very first cell phone, but it's limited. During the week, he doesn't have it. On the weekend, he has time when he's allowed to have it. But the problem is, I've noticed when he has access to that phone, he'll just do the phone, right? We were cleaning cars last week, and I said, hey, can you go vacuum out the Jeep? He was vacuuming out the Jeep. I walked over. He was on his phone. I went, all right, I'm going to see how long this goes for. Hour and a half goes by. I walk back, still vacuuming the same spot every time I'd walk over. I just kept going. I go, okay, I see you. I know what you're doing. Give me the phone, took it away. You got to be proactive. Right. What we had prior to the phone, and it's better than nothing. He had a watch that you could call, and he could make up to 5 phone calls from it. But that was it. It was not like a smart watch where he had games and apps that he could play on. It was literally a watch that was registered through Verizon. I think it was called the Gitmo or Gizmo or Kidmo or something like that. But it was 5 phone numbers that he could store, and anybody could call it if they knew the number, but only he could call out to 5 people. I don't want my kids being addicted to social media. As an adult, right? Everything is, when I wake up in the morning, my alarm is what wakes me up. When I get into the shower, I get out of the shower, I turn on my Tesla from my phone, right, to warm up and start defrosting the car. When I get into the car, I plug in where I'm going on the computer screen in my car to drive to an office that I sit in front of a screen for 8 hours. Yeah. Then I get back into the same car that has that screen. I drive home an hour and a half to get home from work, and then I sit in front of a TV and watch TV. I don't want that for my kids.
Love the soft Tesla flex.
I am worth $10 million. That's why I'm here working.
Loving that. So we're retiring together. In the thing, I guess, if we're talking about young people on social media and on their phones and stuff, what is the scariest thing, if I was a parent, which I'm not, is that there's a lot of predators. There are a lot of predators that try to access these kids, these tweens, these young teenagers, like via these apps. And that's a scary thing. But do I think that this bill is the answer? Like, I don't know. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. Bipartisan gives me the heebie-jeebies. I'm like, okay, something's going on here.
We don't want the government to be daddy.
Let's go down line to line.
Yeah.
Let's figure out how are they trying to launder money through taxpayer dollars?
Right.
How are they trying to spy on me? And what is it that, like, how are they trying to sell America out?
If everyone had this frame of reference and asked those 3 questions every time some bill gets put out, this would be such a better country.
But can I share with you what a friend of mine that's a sitting member of Congress told me that I will never forget? This person looked to me directly in my eyes and said, Rob, most people are stupid.
Right.
True.
Well, we know.
And I never forgot it because most people are just dumb.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. You have to keep it simple for the common everyday person.
Yeah.
Like, I'm stupid enough to not be able to fix things and smart enough to be able to notice things. So it's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the majority of this stuff.
I think they should have just done the executive order that Trump had, because the problem is TikTok itself. It's like we don't need to have this whole bill that now allows them to ban any app or website that has foreign control, because they can just prove if it has 51% control in, Ukraine or Italy or any country you can prove, because the owner's actually from there. Now you can just ban the entire website. That's the problem with this bill. The thing should have just been Trump's executive order. And Trump, however, you got to admit he's hypocritical for now, because his reason is a reach. He's saying it's because Facebook will have a monopoly now on the election. But that's not a good reason.
Facebook said that they weren't going to be posted. Facebook says, and what Facebook does, things. But Facebook said they weren't going to be using political content coming into the political cycle or the election.
I will
cycle.
tell you this: the thing about Facebook, I have a massive following on Facebook. I have like 520,000 followers there, and you can, as a creator,
at Rob Smith Online, by the way.
No, actually, at Rob Smith BK, it's different. I think Rob Smith Online will redirect you there. But you brought that up with Facebook, so. What's happening is, like, Facebook is a way for creators to make money. You can make money on digital video and upwards of 6 figures, right? Facebook saying that they're going to get out of the politics business in general has really, really, really hurt independent, conservative leaning content creators hardcore. There are people that have staked their entire businesses on that platform in terms of pushing out political content. And Facebook is basically saying, Meta, if we're going to be called out for censoring this stuff, we're just going to be out of it in general,
And what happens, that also spreads to TikTok. What happens to the TikTok creators, the people that have built platforms on TikTok that are not going to I have a buddy that has an account on TikTok. It's Freedom on Fire. You should go follow it. It's actually a really good account. But he used it as a funnel system to direct to a news aggregate that he monetizes. Now, all of a sudden, if TikTok's banned, how are you going to get those people to that website?
And at this point right now, I'm a center right leaning dude. I've been banned from TikTok for 6 months for a 13-second video just about being a gay conservative. All the little rainbow mafia leftists sort of descended on my account and got it banned. And I have a person that I know that is upwards of I think 1.1 million on TikTok, and this person is right leaning, but they do culture from a right leaning perspective. And this person was like, you know what? When I was hardcore in the politics, I got banned too. Then I switched to culture, and he was like, that's the only way. So everything that I do on TikTok right now with my 1 follower at Real Rob Smith Online, because I just started it, it's just all culture.
Meanwhile, clips of Osama bin Laden go viral.
Yeah,
Hitler's speech generated into AI, and now it's English, and people are like, oh, it wasn't so bad. What?
Yeah.
What the fuck is... All right, we have to move on. We'll keep it young, though, for those hip young viewers.
We don't have any of those.
Humberto,
how do you do, fellow kids?
Yes.
So like to be engaged in youthful behavior together.
Humberto, let's talk about spring break. We are, after all, based in South Florida. I've noticed traffic is at an uptick, and the crime reporting also on an uptick. Miami Beach specifically. Humberto, what do you have on the spring break ban?
After my last appearance on the show, when I talked about gay whales, I want to move a little bit towards the beach.
Onto land.
And, spring break is a wonderful thing. I remember when, I went to college here in San Diego. We went to Lake Havasu. 4 people died. But it was a great weekend. I mean, it wasn't them dying. They drank too much, jet skis and whatever.
Starts, hey, we had a great vacation. 4 people died, but listen, we went jet skiing.
It was a blast.
It was voluntary deaths.
Yeah, voluntary. I bet they died happy.
Well, did you know them, or were they just
I didn't know them. They went to another school. But anyhow, spring break, massive ban. I want to give some, historical context to his story because we're right now here in. Can I say where we are?
Yeah, Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Good.
Kelly?
I don't know.
Miami.
I don't know.
Direct address next, like, if you have problems, go to blank.
Yeah, what are we broadcasting from Zuckerberg's bunker? No, we're live from the cigar lounge. And,
Yeah,
Fort
but I don't know. I don't want to be one of the four guys. Anyways, 1936, some genius brought 300 beautiful-looking swimmers here to Fort Lauderdale, and that was the beginning of spring break, okay? Then by 1953, people did that and started drinking while doing it.
Took them 20 years.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it took
Right?
20 years for
Okay.
them to figure out that swimming and drinking, that was spring break. And 15,000 students came here to Fort Lauderdale to celebrate like the big, massive spring break. Then it went on. It was highlighted in 1959 by Time magazine. In 1985, 370,000 students came to the Fort Lauderdale area. That's just a big number, record. And in 1986, was probably the closest. I won't say. Anyways, 1986, MTV breaks their show Spring Break. Anyone remember? Spring
Yes,
Break
hosted
MTV?
by Pauly Shore.
I know, it was great. Top entertainment. Anyhow, Florida, we're going to show this video right now, and then I add a little bit more context.
Okay.
Hey, we need to talk.
This isn't working anymore.
And it's not us. It's you. We just want different things.
Our idea of a good time is relaxing on the beach.
Hitting up a spa or checking out a new restaurant.
You just want to get drunk in public and ignore laws.
Do you even remember what happened last March?
That was our breaking point, so we're breaking up with you.
And don't try to apologize and come crawling back. This isn't safe, so we're done.
And just so you know, we're serious.
This March, you can expect things like curfews, bag checks, and restricted beach access.
DUI checkpoints, $100 parking, and strong police enforcement for drug possession and violence.
Whatever it takes, because it's time to move on.
Maybe we can talk when you're done with your spring break phase, but until then.
Boo. That was lame.
I know, lame. I feel discriminated against because they're going against people that like to get drunk and ignore laws. Okay, that can't stand. But anyhow, there's a ban on spring break, $100 parking near the beach. It hurts a lot since, this was the original spring break location. And, I think we can go to the next article or the tweet. Apparently, all this is racist. I don't know how they spin it around, but the left is going crazy about making this about race. And I think this is about, people that, are out there to have a good time. Things happen. There's misbehavior. You're preparing your take on it.
I'm ready.
Oh, I got a take.
So I don't know. Let's show a few videos of the disturbances that occurred. This was actually here.
Damn.
Yeah.
Interesting. Nobody breaking it up. Everybody with a cell phone.
Everybody with a cell phone on TikTok.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Posting it on TikTok.
This one was last year in Miami. The other one was Fort Lauderdale. But I think...
Is this by the Clevelander?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we get the picture. It gets rowdy. What do you guys think? Should we ban spring break? Should we keep on doing spring break?
Look,
go ahead.
I am going to agree with the left for a second. It is about race. Miami Beach is saying, Tyrone and Tanisha, we don't want you no more. Okay? I'm going to say what nobody else in this room on this panel can say is that when you look at every single one of those videos, when it's the girls' hair pulling on the beach, when it's the dudes like people getting shot, all of that stuff, it's always black people. Like, I'm sorry, it's always my cousins coming from Charlotte, coming from Atlanta, whatever, and cutting up. Like, it's the truth. It's the reality of the situation. And it's like everybody knows it, but nobody can say it. So I'm just going to keep it real. I live in Miami Beach right now. I just moved a couple of weeks ago to Miami Beach. I was staying on the mainland in Miami for a while. I love Miami Beach. These restrictions are real. Like, I drive a Vespa. I can barely find somewhere to park that. Cops are everywhere. There are multiple parking garages that are shut down. Do I think that they're going slightly overboard? Yes, but I will tell you, that element that you see shooting and fighting and doing all of this stuff is vastly reduced in Miami right now. So you have a lot of people that are just coming down here to enjoy. Everybody is civil. None of that stuff is happening.
Yeah, and I've lived in South Florida for 8 years, right? I've lived in Florida for 10. I spent the first 3 years in Tampa, moved down to Cape Coral, and we would come across the state from the southwest side over to here every year to go surfing. I'd book and do stand-up dates. One weekend I booked stand-up in Miami, not knowing that it was like, because spring break isn't just 1 week. It's like a month and a half. Yeah, it goes on forever. It goes on
because every college and every different system has different weeks that they do it. So they're here like every weekend.
And I had no idea. So one weekend I'm over here with my family, and I have a big camper van. It's a big one. We take it when we go on road trips. It's fun. We haven't used it in a while, but we were coming into Miami, and it's big to the point where if you're making a U-turn, you have to do a K-turn because it's so long. We're downtown in Miami, and I'm trying to figure out where to get to this comedy venue, and I'm starting to panic because there's people riding by on quads. There's people riding by on dirt bikes. It's chaos. This is 4 or 5 years ago, and then we start hearing gunshots. And, like, I've lived in inner cities. I lived in Philadelphia. I lived in Cleveland, Ohio. So I've lived in cities where we've heard gunshots, nothing this close. And I couldn't get my van out of there. And I'm panicking. And I'm looking around to see if anybody else is panicking. And people are just like, yeah, it's spring break. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
And you notice how, like, there's absolutely no real pushback to this. Like, even the left is like, you know, some leftists will be like, oh, this is about race, blah, blah, blah. There's no real pushback to that because, look, even black people with the sense that God gave us, like, nobody wants to be around the ratchets. Right. Like, I'm sorry, and nobody else will say this, but you know a ratchet when you see one, and nobody is trying to be around the ratchets. Nobody's trying to be where the ratchets are. We were talking about the Clevelander, you know, Miss Clevelander over there on 6th Street and Ocean. Like, you just don't go there because nobody wants to be around the ratchets. And that just is the reality of the situation. I think that they're doing a great job at making people know that do not come here for this anymore. And by the way, we live in Florida where police are actually empowered to do their jobs. And I feel safer in Florida because Florida cops do not play. Yeah. They do not play. They will take you down.
I agree. I was born and raised in Miami every single weekend. My grandma lives on 7th and Collins right there. So I would go every single weekend. And growing up for the past decade or so, I had 3 weekends where I had to watch out for. Memorial Day weekend, Labor Day weekend, and spring break. And I would go when I was in college and spring break. It got progressively worse and more violent as time went on. I got to experience it firsthand. And then when 2020 happened and the restrictions here, people were coming here to have a little bit more freedom to, I don't know, go by the water. They closed down the street of Ocean, right? And no cars were able to go, so people were able to walk. That was a total catapult of like no locals and everybody coming from different states and creating even more havoc. I would have my grandmother calling me because she lived with the balcony on 7th, and she would be like, there is a body on the corner of like her on the corner of Washington and 7th, and she would just be like, and cops are everywhere. And this happened like every other weekend. There was a fight that she was seeing.
So what you're saying is Abuela wasn't going to go do shots at Wet
I
Willie.
was saying I'm glad that Abuela was deaf because she was able to sleep through all of the chaos, and she doesn't have soundproof. She's right in the thick of it. So I would go there, and I think that this is a good point for it to be a little extreme because there has to be a point made. There were so many years where it was getting worse and worse and worse, and I think that the extreme part of being like, hey, we're going to do the parking. We're not going to let you, we're going to have curfew. We're going to have a lot of cops, a lot of restrictions. I think it helps the locals because everybody is coming to Miami. Like if they're from here, like, no, the locals aren't the ones causing this. It's everyone coming in and people just want to relax and enjoy their time in Miami. They're destroying the city that they had the freedom to come to in 2020. So it needs to be a little extreme. There needs to be a point, and the point is being made.
And I agree with you. And I feel like this, like just living it, like it's a lot. Okay, it is a whole lot. And I feel like in subsequent years, it will lighten up a little bit, you know, and it'll get to a level to where it doesn't quite feel like Kuwait. It's like I've been in Kuwait, I can make that reference. But there's just like a lot of people around. I think that it will calm down after a couple of years.
But do you think that there's a bigger issue here that it like a culture issue, like to sit and watch?
There's a ratchet culture issue because it's only the ratchets that are doing this, and ratchet culture will not be fixed. Ratchet culture will not have legislation that is going to. Ratchet culture is always going to be ratchet.
But I understand that, but
just keep it away from my black ass.
Watching that video, I understand. There's always idiots, and you see the two people fighting. What bothers me more about those two people fighting is the crowd of people surrounding that are filming it so that they can get a viral moment. Like that to them is more important than what if that one woman beat the other woman to death and everybody's filming it. There's like this, we've become so desensitized, and it's like you talked about Twitter and seeing anti-Semitism on it earlier. One thing that became very hard for me as a father was seeing the images coming out of Israel and Gaza following October. Seeing these images of kids dead, seeing people like fathers digging through Rumble. I'd never seen, and you served 2 tours overseas?
2 tours. One tour was a training tour, but I was in Iraq for that was a combat operation.
The Operation Enduring Freedom.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, so you've seen war-torn countries. You've seen, but this is something that you'd have to 20 years ago, you'd have to go there. Yeah, you could watch a documentary on A&E or the History Channel and see footage similar to this, but never at your fingertips. And it makes me feel like this social media, having these apps, having this access to information, having violent video games, having violent movies, I think all of this plays into it. We don't value human life anymore, and it's a problem.
And when you want to talk about even bringing up the conversation about Elon and X, what I've seen on Twitter, I have a very active Twitter presence, and what I've seen more is this engagement farming, right? People make money from engagement farming. They make money from how many people look at a video. And what I've seen a lot more of on Twitter is videos like the spring break stuff, videos of either a group of black people ganging up and beating up a white person, or a group of white people ganging around beating up a black person. So it's just like all of this stuff really does desensitize us, and there are people that are now monetizing this stuff that really don't care.
Sex and violence,
you know,
humans love it. They always love sex and violence at the beginning of time. I need to push back a little bit because you're taking full ownership of the ratchets.
I'm not taking full ownership of ratchets.
We are Latinos. We are Latinos. We have our ratchets.
Well, y'all have y'all ratchets, and y'all ratchets are annoying too sometimes. But not as
with them.
Y'all ratchets are annoying, but they're not as like violent.
They're super violent.
Our ratchets.
No, I disagree.
Do we have ratchets?
No, white people. No. White people have ratchets too. They're just all up in Kentucky and West Virginia.
They're not making the trip. They're going to the lake.
Meth heads is what they're called.
Yeah,
but
in Vermont,
they're going to the watering hole.
That being said, I'm openly a culturalist. You know, I think we have more in common. You know, we have the same goals. We want to see a free country and everything than people from my same color or whatever.
Yeah.
I think there's people that, you know, they want to live a free life. They want to get education. They want to take care of their kids, you know, and there's segments like I see it in Latino culture. I have nothing to do with the ratchets from Latino culture. Like they're on a whole different level. They will take a life and not even sweat it. You've seen those killers.
Okay, so you're talking about like gang members. Because when I talk about ratchets, like when I talk about the black ratchets, like I'm really just talking about the people that you see in that video. Like these are not necessarily like this chick, like those girls that are fighting on the beach. She's not gonna pull out a weapon and do whatever, but she'll snatch the weave off and she'll snatch that chick up and all that stuff.
I'm sure there's more of that happening in like Hialeah.
But
yeah,
I think there's a social contagion thing going on because one of those killers, like a gang member, is surrounded, but like they know one of those guys, and that type of violence maybe might not escalate until like killing someone.
Yeah.
But the violent things and the things that go against the law and against public decency that get done, because when she sees a guy that is willing to kill someone, everything else seems less worse. You know what I mean?
I think, well, last year at the Clevelander, it was also Latinos who were shooting out, and a few people, that caught bodies. It wasn't just.
All right,
like,
so there's Tyrone's and there's Tyrone and Tanisha, then there's Juans, and Juanitas.
Right, exactly. It's like a blend. We're all blended together, and it's just people. Like we can't put ourselves.
And then the white people are just terrified. Like they
nobody messes with them. They're like in the.
Oh yeah, we're so innocent except for every mass shooting that you've ever seen.
Well, no, but here's the thing.
The United States ever been.
Well, I know that.
Or was a white guy and is now a trans woman.
I know that, but what I'm talking about is like I'm just talking about things specifically to Miami, and it's just like I'll do my little walks now that I live on South Beach. So like I'll do a walk by the beach after dinner to help digest and all this other stuff, and you'll just be walking down and it'll just be normal, whatever, and then there'll just be like a crowd of ratchets, and these white people on vacation are just terrified. They're just like given a wide berth, and it's just like, yes, this is not PC.
Might I suggest, if you're looking to come to Florida and avoid the ratchets, the Juanitas and the Juans and Tanishas and Tyrones, Southwest
go to private
Florida.
parties.
Well, Southwest Florida, it's actually like I did spring break over there every year because I live there, and it's actually like Fort Myers Beach area. There's not this nonsense. It's not. It's families that come down and bring their kids.
But then that's the other side of the coin, because I lived on the west coast of Florida for 2 years, and then it's like the whitest place on the planet. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I just need a little bit more flavor.
Yeah. Well, it's also what Miami's been marketed as. Like we were talking about how just South Beach is like that small strip between 5th and like, let's say 9th. Let's just give it 9th or 10th. Yeah. That strip is being marketed everywhere as if that's all of Miami. All
You're
of Florida.
5th or 9th, so it's 4 city blocks.
It's like 4 blocks.
Yeah.
That is literally posted on every poster. You can see my grandma's building like right there in those postcards. That is all you see. But like nobody talks about like other parts of Miami that are beautiful. Like Everglades is a huge part of it. A lot of nature type of things. Like I went to nature camp for like 8 years every summer. Like people don't talk about that. They just market this, and they market the ratchet, and they market the people that come to live here as if they're locals that come with this rachetera, and it's not.
Oh, rachetera! Las racheteras!
There's some ratchet, but the locals are usually.
No vengo a Miami, las racheteras.
No rachetera. And they'll come and then they'll market it as if it's that, and it's something totally different. And we got to start pushing other parts of Miami that are actually beautiful to explore. And
you know what? I didn't know how beautiful the city really was until I lived here, and I started explored different parts. And like you got your Coral Gables, and you got your Everglades, and you got your Coconut Grove,
beautiful,
and Wynwood. Like I don't get Wynwood, like it's not for me,
it's
but
like,
I
there's art
understand.
Right here, but if you turn a corner,
there's like a homeless person like shitting on the street.
So you're like, look,
I love it.
Florida is very interesting because you'll drive through $1 million neighborhood, and then as you're driving through that, then you'll go to the hood, then you'll see roosters, then you'll be back to $1 million neighborhood, and it's all on one block.
Well, it's
and
like
you're
it's the perfect example
Humberto,
of like right in the center of everything, of like everybody with tons of money, and then around the outskirts, you're like, hey, don't turn that corner because it's like the homeless sleeping right there.
You need to make your point about how it's a plot from Soros real quick before we go on.
Oh, what?
Another one.
Yeah. I know, because we have a rule here. We have to mention Soros every time, and this right here is a plan to destroy the human population. Did you know that after December, Christmas time, spring break is the time that there's most recorded pregnancies?
Yeah, I don't know if I want those people reproducing that I saw on the beach fighting.
Oh,
like
no,
that.
here's the problem. They don't have to come to Miami to reproduce. They're reproducing at home and creating another generation of ratchets, which is why I've given up on this idea that, like, when I first came out and started doing all this stuff, I was like, the black community needs to come to conservatism and all that stuff. Like, ratchets are, ratchistas, what she said?
Rachetera.
Las racheteras. They have been, they are and will always
Always be,
remain.
yeah.
Will always be.
Well, speaking of La Rachadera, thank you for bringing up the George Soros angle. Let's go to Shane, who doesn't look like he has ever been out in the sun.
No.
So you've never been.
I can't relate.
My legs are.
Yeah, I can't relate to all this beach talk because I just burn up when I go out there. So we're just chilling at home.
But Shane, you're chilling at home reading about Adin Ross getting Andrew Tate arrested. Andrew Tate detained.
Yeah.
The news broke Monday. It was really weird. I do prep for PBD podcast, so I look for news stories and I get news alerts, and my phone just started blowing up at like 4:23 in the morning on Tuesday morning. And then it's article after article coming out that Andrew Tate had been detained again in Romania, this time on an arrest warrant out of the United Kingdom. And according to you, Adin Ross is the reason that Andrew Tate got arrested. Tell us more, Shane.
Yeah, so my angle here is that Gen Z has a problem. I mean, they are just stupid, first of all, and they're snitches, and they basically are just serving the role of the, whatever you want to call it, totalitarian state for them because they just blab everything out. So basically, Andrew Tate got arrested this week. The reason, it turns out, is because Adin Ross on a stream last week said, "Hey guys, guess what? Tate just hit me up. It's his last week in Romania. He wants me to fly out and do a week's worth of content with him because he's going to leave the country forever." The law firm
now he's detained on house arrest.
So he's detained on house arrest.
And at one point, I know that his mother was facing some type of medical issue, and he had requested that he be able to leave Romania to be able to go be at his mother's side, and the Romanian government declined that request. So it's publicly known that Andrew Tate is on house arrest in Romania and can't leave the country.
So it's like, don't tell your million Kick followers about this, Adin. But let's watch the first clip. Because it's Adin explaining. Well, the first clip is Adin actually saying it.
Andrew had hit me up. He said, "Hey, I'm going to be leaving Romania soon and probably never coming back. If you want to come over and do a week of long streams and content before I leave, I think it'll be big." And I'm sorry, he said it's basically now or never. And this is just, I told you guys this year, it's a week of content, right? And again, guys, it might be the last time we ever do this. So it's kind of like we got to take advantage of it now because, hey, bro, it's basically like, it's like that. And then.
And they also can't talk, by the way.
So let me ask. So did he know, was this maliciously done?
No.
Did he know the repercussions, or is it just stupidity?
So I'll go over his excuse in a second, but let's just look at the letter. So this is a letter from the law firm confirming. So it's the law firm representing Tate's accusers, the 4 anonymous accusers in the UK. It's a UK-based firm. They confirmed that if you could just zoom in on the bold part, Kelly, they said, "Last week, we received information that Tate might have been planning to flee Romania, where he is due to stand trial for separate allegations of rape and human trafficking. We wrote to the British police to bring this to their attention and to urge them to immediately seek a warrant for Tate's detention in Romania and extradition to the UK." So now not only did Tate get arrested, now it's totally worked out that he will be extradited to the UK after his Romania trial is finished. And so if we could play just the next clip of Adin talking about the follow-up, yeah.
Oh my God. Really fucked up. And Andrew Tate's team confirmed
right away
that I fucked up, and Tate told me, right? I fucked up, and thank God he did not get put back in there because I would have felt really guilty. Tate had spoke to me, and he said, "Dude, just come to Romania. I want to give my people and your people what they want to see. Let's do some content. You're okay, and I forgive you." Because I apologize. I felt really fucking bad, bro. Really bad. And I really, really feel bad about that, and I'm sorry. I honestly did not mean for that to happen. My motive and my reason speaking about location was because I didn't want to get swatted. So I basically, which was really stupid.
So I watched a longer clip of that. He does not elaborate about what that means. He goes, "Oh, I didn't want to get swatted." So what I think he's trying to say is he didn't want to just say, "I'm going to do a week's worth of content with Tate," and have his followers think that this was occurring in the U.S. I think he said it because he wanted to make it clear that it was in Romania so they couldn't swat him. And for those who don't know, swatting is when you fake that someone else is doing a bomb threat so that a SWAT unit gets sent to your house, and it's a way to harass people on the internet, which Adin Ross has gotten swatted many times before. Streamers do this to each other all the time. But so, I mean, what do you guys think?
No, you're killing me. You're killing me. Like, I do a Saucecast, and I think I had enough Adin Ross content to last me for a lifetime.
So tired.
I hate talking about this guy. I hate that he's famous. I think this is on Tate for hangout. If you hang out with stupid dudes,
Very true.
like if you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. That's what it is. Okay, like if you're gonna, you don't tell this guy anything. It's not the first time. Like I can quote 2 or 3 times he talked too much. You know, their business model is to be permanently online. They turn on Twitch in the morning, and whatever comes in their limited resource head comes out of their mouth. So they just need to fill in. You said that radio 3-hour radio is hard.
Yeah.
These guys do 8 hours.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah,
this?
but they don't say
I mean,
hours.
First of all, what are they famous for? Like, what is he famous
I
for
think
doing?
just famous.
Just video games
Video
online.
games.
We're just in this phase, and it's a really good point that you make. We're in this phase where anybody that's a complete no talent and a complete idiot can just live stream themselves saying shit for 5 hours
I'm writing
a day.
this down.
Get it, like literally.
All of that.
How to get my 10 million.
You live stream yourself saying shit for 5 hours a day. You amass a huge following, and then all of a sudden you're an important person because all of these people are following you. Just the internet is filled with these idiots. It's just whatever. Like I was not aware of who this person was until a week ago when apparently he paid Sexy Red for sex. And that was the whole thing. And it's like I was like, okay, and then they had to backtrack on that. He was like, oh yeah, I smashed Sexy Red, whatever.
Yeah, but then didn't she tweet out like, yeah, you paid me to have sex with you? Who's the winner on that
Yeah,
one?
she said you paid me to take your virginity. So she's admitting to hoeing,
Yes,
and
yeah,
he's
that's right.
admitting to paying a hoe. And I should care who these people are. Like I feel the same way about like that little dick porn star, the Adam guy that's on that guy.
Yeah.
Like I know who this
Definitely didn't
person
watch
is
that
famous
video.
for. Why? Because like it's just like whatever.
It's
Yeah.
exhausting.
I mean,
don't
so
know.
but what we also need to know is that these kids are filthy rich from doing this.
That's
stuff.
the whole thing. They're so
Filthy
fucking rich.
More
I
than
looked up
25 million.
So rich.
I looked up Adin Ross's net worth. I don't think this is accurate. It said 15 million. I feel like I remember him saying it's 80 million. He said that his contract to go to Kick, leaving what's the other one, Twitch.
Yeah.
He said it was the most. It's the highest contract ever in streaming history, and he said it's not over 150 million. So it's like, oh, it's not over. Like,
Yeah.
how much could that possibly be? And I saw some video of Adin giving the other streamer kid, I Show Speed, a watch. These are 21-year-olds giving him $150,000 watch.
I can't even hate, like, honestly, I'm a capitalist. We love capitalism. Like, I can't even hate on it. I just don't know why I always have to talk about these people. Like,
I know.
like that's get your money.
Right, exactly. Don't knock it. But like, I have a question. Do you think that there's value for any higher ups, like in governments and stuff, to have dumb millionaires and billionaires?
Well, there's value for them because they can probably use these people. They can control them via their messaging.
Right.
And they can use these people to reach people that will never watch Fox or whatever. I mean, it's just... This is a very weird era that we're living in where basically anybody can get super famous overnight. And if you know what's going on, you make a lot of money. And when you have one of the top 3 or the number 1 thing that most kids want to do nowadays is become an influencer, which is fine. Like I get capitalism, like be an influencer of value. I think.
Right.
I always think about in terms of like whenever I'm putting something out, whenever I'm doing anything, I always think about like what value am I creating to my audience? Am I entertaining them? Am I informing them? I'm doing whatever. I don't know what the value of an Adin Ross is.
And I appreciate that type of content more. Like a lot of the things that I subscribe to on YouTube, a lot of the influencers that I follow are people, and it's very lame, but it's people that specialize in home construction and stuff like that.
No, that's
because
not lame.
I have a home.
Lame.
I know, but it's like like I should be following Instagram models or chicks with big boobs, but instead it's
but
like
you see,
I
they
like
want you
Bob
to
with
do
the
that.
tractor because I own a home. I'm doing home improvements on the weekend, but I'm
You're mad.
learning something from the content. They're putting good back into the world because I'm able to take that and make my life better. I agree with you. I don't understand who can watch somebody stream video games or whatever these guys do and have their lives get better. If anything,
but you know
I would
what?
feel like their lives get worse because those people are actually paying their hard-earned money, or maybe their parents' hard-earned money, to help these people by donating to, like, I remember I was on Twitch, and our radio show that I worked for out of Tampa at the time, his name's Bubba the Love Sponge. He was a guy that was huge on the radio in the 90s, had a hard time making that transition to digital, but we figured out, hey, there's this thing called Twitch. It was 2017. It was just taking off. We put him on Twitch. He was one of the first broadcasters. The way that he made money was by people that were watching donate their money to him in bits. So not only they're not receiving anything instructional, educational, or making their lives any better, it's actually taking away from them by taking their money.
Exactly.
What I was going to say is like one thing that I learned is sort of my following has sort of there's a very transitional period for my following right now, because I got my following, I became famous or whatever by being, I'll say, like, I was a big Trump person, like I got in that world, and then I'm kind of like not as much of a booster as I was in the past, and so now I'm starting to say real shit, and some people don't like that. And what I realized when you transition is that you are your following, okay? If your following is a bunch of freaking losers in their basement giving you, like, that's who you are. But look, you can make a lot of money off of losers, okay? You can make a lot of money off of low IQs. Like, think about the people, like, think about who's following Sexy Red, or who's following Suki, like, who's following the Ratchets or whatever. Like, you are your following. Granted, they're making a lot of money, and you're making a lot of money off of a very low IQ following who you're not adding value to. They're not adding really value to you, is only just because they're watching, consuming the stuff, and they're not making their lives any better. Like, you're not informing people, you're not giving them at least a perspective, you're not doing anything but talking shit, flexing watches, and being on stream. And I fear that is what a lot of the younger people right now, like, that's who they're getting value from. Like, that's who they're looking up to. You want to talk about Tate? I follow Tate. Tate adds value because he's going to tell you about, like, being a man. He's going to tell you about masculinity. He's going to tell you, like, how to be strong, how to face through adversity. Like, Andrew Tate will call you broke if you don't have a $30 million net worth. And I was like, fuck, I'm broke. You know, like, stuff like that. Like, that is adding value to my life. These guys are not value added.
Do you blame Andrew Tate at all for, you said it's known that Adin Ross got loose lips sink ships. Do you blame Andrew Tate at all for telling Adin Ross that he was planning on leaving Romania?
100%. It's not the first time that happens to Andrew Tate that he leaks some information. This time is bigger.
So he's burned Tate before on things like this. Wow.
But I mean,
I think about his child, about the existence of his child. I think that was
I hate to say this.
That Tate had kids. Adin Ross revealed that.
It was either Ross or it was someone else. I don't
or it was Neon. What?
Yeah, that kid.
I don't know. These people. I mean, good for them. I respect the hustle. I think that the value that Tate provides in a different level. This guy's provide no value, and maybe they do provide some kind of value, like
selling ads.
Selling ads. Maybe like as a young person, you know, there's not much going on. The economy's in the tank. You know, like, it's not hard to be a straight white male, you know, in this times that is most of their followings. So they're just hiding in their bedroom.
You know, can I say one thing about that whole, like, straight white male woe is me thing? Like, I'm sorry, if you're a straight white dude in America and you haven't figured out how to make that work, then I don't know what I can do for you. All right, it's not. It's like the DEI stuff. Like, granted, like, I make the argument against DEI all the time, but fundamentally, and I've said this to my following, like, they got pissed off at me. Fundamentally, when you break down the numbers, like, straight, like, control everything, own everything, have access to all kinds of capital, all kinds of power, whatever. And if you are in some space online where you're listening to people that are telling you that the world is against you because you're straight and white, like, you need to unfollow whoever it is that you're following and go get a job. Is he one of those, like, woe is me, I'm a straight white dude streamers?
I agree with you. I think he's more just like men are under oppressed. Like, he's not really about the white thing, but I agree. I think, like, victim mentality of any kind, I'm against. And it's specifically because it's like, you know, the people who say that are like, white civilization used to be so great and now, you know, it's falling apart. But it was only great because we were capitalistic and not feeling sorry for ourselves and God-fearing. Slowly, like every civilization in the past, it's become, well, I should just be entitled to, you know, have my parents' money constantly replenishing my bank account.
Huge amount of entitlement.
And like, if it is the case that you know, you're from a white family that used to have money and doesn't anymore, well, guess what? You have to restart the family tree and start on your own capitalistic venture again. You can't just expect there to be some publishing house waiting for you, or some movie studio waiting for you to, like, drop your movie or your book in. Like, it might have been 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, you got to start over. Like, sorry. I mean,
No
it's
one's coming
not,
to save you.
it's the same
Nobody
thing that you say
is
to
coming
everybody
to
else.
save you.
No, what do they say? Strong men create good times.
Yeah.
Good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times. Bad times create
Exactly.
strong men. It's cyclical.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm like-
I'm gonna do you one better. It's not even the straight white male thing. I think everyone that is an American has a better chance at life. Like you don't even know how hard I worked to be able to move here. Okay, like I had to show all my papers.
So you got papers?
Yeah, all my papers, all my degrees, everything. To just move here. And when I walk around and I see someone on the street just, like asking for money, I'm so mad. Because like the chances that you have in here, like I describe living in America as living life in a premium subscription.
Yeah.
Like everyone has access to YouTube,
Yeah.
but you still have to watch the ads. Once you pay for premium, there's no ads and you get access to everything.
Yeah.
So like I think everyone that lives in this country for now is incredibly lucky. Like this is the best country that it's ever been.
I think so too. Like I'm gonna tell you, things are hard for people. Let's just put that in general. Like things are hard. If you don't look a certain way, you're not from a certain amount of money, whatever, things will be harder for you. Like it's like saying the sky is pink to deny that reality. But I agree with you in the fact that like you are in America. You are in the United States of America. People die to come here and die to be here. And you can make a way out of any way if you are lucky enough to be here.
And there are people that have died to defend the freedom to be here.
Absolutely.
And there are also
Exactly.
people like yourself who have went and served to make sure that the freedoms for us to sit here and even talk shit still exist. So Rob, decorated war veteran, author, political analyst, and host of the Can't Cancel Rob Smith podcast, moving to video on Monday on YouTube.
Yes, youtube.com/@can'tcancelrobsmith.
And you can also find him on all socials at Rob Smith Online. You can find us, myself, Vinny, Kelly, Christie, you're on Minnect?
Yes.
Humberto?
Yes, I'm on
Minnect. And coming soon,
Next
VT
week.
writer and non-spring breaker Shane
That's
Devine.
right.
Make sure you
Shawnee.
check
Down with
out
spring
Shane's
break.
content, VT.com. Big thank you to the crew, Kelly, Jorge,
Love you,
Studio
Kelly.
Tex, Jeremy, everybody that's running the ship. Thank you to Patrick Bet David for creating this avenue for us to sit and hang out. And we'll be back on Wednesday. Vinny will be back hosting live at 6 p.m. The Unusual Suspects. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.